Hey everybody, Koricon Nala here, and this is episode 2 of Breathe, an Amazon Prime show that you all should be checking out. I'm really enjoying it. They're up to episode 7 as of this recording. Episode 8 comes out this Friday, and I'm going to be doing the episodes to catch up, so that when episode 8 hits, I can do that one. And then we'll do a spoiler-free review of the entire season for people that are going to watch later just to see if it's a show they want to check out. So we'll be doing episodes 2 today and 3 on Friday, and then 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 through the week, next week. So it's going to be a lot of Breathe episodes. I hope you guys are into that, for those of you that watch this. Also, you're going to notice a little watermark for XSplit down there. And that's because I can't afford to renew my license, and so I'm using the free version, which gives us a watermark if I'm using the 1080p. So I guess I'll just be promoting XSplit from now on. But that's cool. XSplit's a great program and I love it. So y'all, if you do videos, you should check it out. But Breathe, episode 2 is called The Hunt Begins. This is going to be a spoiler review and discussion video. So if you haven't seen the show, or you haven't seen this episode, go check it out and then come back and we'll talk about it. The episode starts out with a surveillance and research kind of montage sequence. And I really liked that because some shows would just jump into killing people just to save time, just to jump into it. But if you did that, I would be wondering things like, well, if it's murder, then they're not going to get the donor. Or, you know, well, how do they get the organs in time? You know, all that kind of stuff. And so he's researching it. He's looking at how to make a person brain dead so that the organ stays alive for longer. How long after death do you get the organ, which is 4 to 6 hours. That's your window. And then like a montage of him researching and writing things down and getting all of this information, which is great. I loved that whole sequence. It was a good detail in the show that you could do very quickly. Like, you don't have to have it this huge, long, you know, part of the show. And just doing that quick montage, even though, plus it's interesting, but just doing that, you set up for the rest of the season that he knows what he's doing. At least he kind of knows what he's doing. He knows enough to be able to realistically get those donors. Plus, now every time he kills somebody, you're wondering how he gets in that 4 to 6 hour window, and it's some of the ways that he does it is very interesting, but we'll talk about that in future episodes. After the research montage, he had a moment where he had to decide who was going to die first. And that is an emotional moment. For the first time, he's deciding about someone's life. And you can see it on Madhavant's face where he's like, he's struggling, like he doesn't want to do this, but he like, you know, gets strength because he has to do this. And so he ends up turning all the pictures upside down, which is very psychological in that he doesn't want to see their faces. He's trying to keep them anonymous in his own mind. And then he shuffles them around and then just throws one down. And that random person is the one who dies first. And I kind of like the fact that, you know, he did that because he didn't want to see their faces. He wanted it to almost be like the decision is out of his hands, that he allowed fate to decide. And then in his own mind, he can be like, well, that's just the person, but I didn't choose them. Like, he's trying to almost push the blame off of him so that in his own mind he can bring himself back to, I have to do this, instead of, I chose to do this. And then we move into multiple days of him doing surveillance of the first donor. writing down his schedule and seeing his habits, and he's not doing it on a whim. So again, I like the planning of it. Some people would think those kind of moments are boring, but I think they add a lot to the story. Because he doesn't just go over there and then tries to kill the guy. After doing all of this research, why wouldn't he research the person that he's trying to take out? And he would have to be able to do it properly because of that 4 to 6 hour window. And you don't want to get caught. It can't be a murder because murders, the donors don't donate organs when it's a murder because now it's a murder scene. And all this other stuff he's got to take into consideration. Being able to get the person's habits, know who goes over there, find out their regular schedule, to be able to plan around it. It makes him a very smart and strategic villain person. I don't know if you would call him a villain. I mean, he's killing people. So it's kind of a villain, but in a way you sympathize with him because his son is so cute and said, "I don't want to die, Daddy." And you're like, I gotta do it. But I like that he did all of that scheduling and over multiple days. It's not like he watched him one day and then was like, "Oh, I know what to do." He was doing it multiple days, and he was doing it from a construction site across the street. And they had a very quick moment of when he leaves after one of the days. I think it was the last day that he left. He leaves and then he kind of cleans up and puts this tarp over the wood and things like he put everything back to where it was to make it look like he wasn't there. And that is a great moment, because if the police for any reason thought that there was something mischievous going on, one of the first things they would do is look out the window, see the construction site, and go over there to see if somebody was there. And so it was a nice little detail that I really appreciated. Then we switched over to Kabir at this family dinner with his partner, and Amit's performance of really showing the turmoil of watching his partner's daughter, who was about the same age as his daughter, and she's coloring, just innocently coloring, but it reminds him, and all this emotion floods back into him, and you can see it in his face that he's trying to be nice and be with his partner and support his family, but at the same time it's slowly killing him on the inside, and he can't take it and ends up having to leave. And then we go to his wife, Raya, who is going to be getting a divorce, and her employee has a crush on her that she's totally aware of. And she makes a great point that Kabir is not the only one suffering when he's talking to her, when she's talking to him about the divorce. That is something that you can tell he didn't really take into consideration. He was so self-absorbed in his own blame and guilt and just overall sadness that he didn't really consider the fact that Raya is going through the exact same thing. It was her daughter as well. She's torn up on the inside as also. And so he is not the only one suffering. But he's so self-absorbed in it that he doesn't see anyone else's plight. He only sees his own. We go back to Danny, and he's decided it's time to go take his research and try to kill donor number 1. And he goes over to the apartment, and he puts the gloves on, and he goes to ring the doorbell, and he can't do it. He wants to ring that doorbell, but he just can't do it and ends up leaving. And as he's going down the stairs, they had this nice color change to a dream state. Everything slowed down, and he sees his mother coming up the stairs, and he sees his son coming up the stairs, and then he sees his wife who had passed away, and she says, "You promised." And he gets his resolve. He's like, "Oh, I have to do this." So he ends up going home, and he's talking to his son, and he's talking to him about growing up, like all the things you have to do when you grow up. And it slowly kills him. Like he's almost desperate. You know, he is desperate. You can see that he's desperate, but his sadness overtakes him. After that, his resolve is strengthened, and he goes back to the apartment, rings the doorbell, and he's kind of clumsy about it. You know, you can tell it's his first time. They did a good job of showing that he's nervous. He's like dropping the knife, you know, all this kind of stuff. He doesn't know what he's looks really scared. And he makes donor number one get on the treadmill and run on the treadmill because he's trying to induce asthma, which he had witnessed during his research. And if he induces the asthma, it'll make him brain dead and it'll look like an accident. It's a very smart thing to do. And as he's doing that, you know, he's thinking it's not working. It's not working fast enough. Because one of the things that he found out during his surveillance is every day he gets visited by this one guy who delivers something. And so he knows that this guy coming to the apartment is going to discover the body, and then that will make sure that he gets to the hospital within the time period needed for them to harvest the organ. And so the treadmill's not working. It's not working fast enough. And so he gets dust from the vacuum and basically shoves it in his face and induces the asthma. And the look of almost emotionless that comes over him, you know, where it becomes something like something normal that he just has to do instead of him being scared. He kind of grows more resolve as the scene progresses. Instead of being really nervous in the beginning, by the end of it, he's almost annoyed that it hasn't happened yet. And then when the guy falls on the ground and goes unconscious or whatever, he looks over and there's a baby. There's a baby in the apartment. And it hits him. But then, see, it hits him real quick. Oh my gosh, there's a baby. But then you can see the emotion like drain out. Like, well, the baby's going to get discovered in a minute anyway. And then they had another good touch of him taking the inhaler and just spraying it until it was empty. That's a really good detail. That's what I like about this show, is they're showing details, little details that they don't have to show. But then it really cuts out a lot of questions that you would have. Like, well, why didn't he use his inhaler? It was empty. That's a great thing, because the cops would ask that. They would like, what happened to his inhaler? Why didn't he use it? He had it on him. Well, it was empty. That's a really good detail, really good little touch that they put in there. And then he goes, you know, barely gets out of there in time, passes the grocer on the way down the stairs, and ends up throwing up in the parking lot because basically the weight of what happened finally hit him. And I like the fact that he did throw up in the parking lot, because it shows that he's still human, that he didn't just all of a sudden become this serial killer that has no emotion and he's now a psychopath and a sociopath. It really shows that he is having a hard time dealing with it. So he's just as human as everyone else. If they didn't show that or have something else, then I think I would think that I think I would think that he became a killer too quick. You know, like, okay, you went from this really happy father that doesn't want to do it to all of a sudden switching to you want to do it, but you're nervous about it, and then by the end you're a serial killer. Like, it would have been too quick. This way they can draw that out a little bit and show the slow progression of him making it almost easier every time. So I like the fact that he threw up in the parking lot. Good touch. Like I said, they have a lot of little details, very quick scenes that are really good touches. They cut to the hospital. They took the guy to the hospital, and Madhavan is in there, Danny is in there, and he's overhearing the doctor talking to the family. He's trying to make sure that the organs were donated. And the doctor says, we were able to save him, but he's in a coma. And it wasn't like a totally shocking twist, but it was a, oh man, kind of moment, you know. Especially the fact that there were 5 donors in the area. His son is 4th on the list. So now there's only 4 left. He cannot mess up with the next 4. And he can't go in and kill this guy, because then it would be a murder and then they wouldn't get donated. And he can't have a mysterious accident 2 times in a row because they would think it was murder. So that guy is now off the list. He can't be touched again. So he only has 4 more. And he's got to hit each one perfectly, otherwise it doesn't work. Now in the first episode, they had a quick scene of Danny coaching a kid's football team, or in the US we would call it soccer, but he was coaching the football team, and he's really competitive. You know, you can tell when he's telling this kid, why didn't you tackle him, why didn't you get in the way, why didn't you hit this guy? And he's like, he's a friend of mine. He's like, I don't care if he's like, he wasn't the super nice guy that they had earlier in episode 1. And you can tell that he's super competitive. He doesn't like failure. And that comes into play in the second episode, because the fact that he failed with donor 1, that the fear and the hatred of failure now is superseding his conscience that he had earlier in episode 2. And so setting up that competitive nature in episode 1 in a quick scene really pays off in episode 2. And again, another small detail that they didn't have to put in there, but I really like that. And you could see it in the character that he doesn't like this failure. It drives him crazy. He hates the fact that he failed. And now his resolve is even more strong. He's even more determined to get this done. And it's almost become, instead of I have to do this for my son, like that is still there. Like I have to do this for my son, but also I don't want to fail. So it's another thing added to his frame of mind when he goes for the other 4. I like that. I really like that. In episode 2, we got a lot of small story details. And it's something that you can do in a TV series, like a show format, because it's a long form story arc. It's not something you can really do in a movie because it would take too much time. And I love those little details. Now, it could be that I'm just really detail oriented. I ask a lot of questions. There's a lot of things that go on in my head when I'm watching a movie. And a lot of times I just say, well, it's a movie. If they tried to show that, it would slow the film down too much. But in a TV show, you have the time to do that. And so episode 2 had a lot of little details that I really appreciated. And so to the writers, Vikram Tuli, talking to you as well, man. Great writing. I loved those details. Absolutely loved them. And it made me even more excited to see episode 3 because I wanted to see what kind of details they would have in there. For someone like me, it really makes this show appealing because I'm now excited to know what other little detail nuggets they're going to give us for the story in the future. And I'm looking forward to seeing them. It was great. I love it. If you like this episode discussion, also check out the one I did for episode 1. And stick around, stay tuned for the future episodes. We got episode 8 coming up on Friday, so we will be doing one pretty much every day except for the weekend to get to episode 8. It's the season finale. I'm excited. So let me know what you guys think. Is there something else, another little detail that you noticed that I missed? I would love to hear it. I like those little details. Comment below and let me know your thoughts. I've got a little thing about the Stardust app. If you want to check that out, I need 3 more new people to, follow me first for me to hit the 5 that they wanted me to do in the first 30 days. I mean, if I don't hit that, it's fine. But if I do hit that, then I get on their preferred list, and so they put me in marketing. It would be cool exposure. So if that's something you're interested in, check that out. But here's more info on that. Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends. And I will see you on episode 3. Quick promotion, everybody. I'm having fun using the Stardust app, which allows you to make up to a 30-second reaction to movies and TV shows, and I'd love to see your reactions and put them in my videos. If you're interested in that, download the Stardust app. I've got a link to it in the description below, and make sure to follow Koricon. And whenever you make a reaction, make sure that you tag Koricon so that I get notified and can see it. Whenever I make a reaction video or a movie review, and I see your video, I will take clips from it and put them in my video. If you're a YouTuber, make sure to put your YouTube channel name on your reaction if you want free promotion. And if you're a fan of my channel and just want to be in there, great. So tag me on your reactions. And to be totally transparent and honest with you guys, when you download the Stardust app, the first person that you follow gets credit for the download. So if you want to follow me and give me credit, make sure that you follow me first. If you want to give your favorite YouTuber a credit, make sure that you follow them first. But either way, make sure that you follow me at some point and tag me in your reactions so I can get them in the videos.